Hello and welcome back to Charge. My name is Maria Christina.
And I'm Louisa. Today's format will be a little different. We will be handing over to Tom Mullen, Richard Brown and Joel Bygraves, who will be discussing simplifying payments and how important it is to marry UX design with security.
Tom is Develop's CEO and Richard is the lead developer. Joel, on the other hand, is the founder of Yoyster, a brand new app which has just launched and helps groups organise and pay for events, activities and holidays. When he came to us with his idea, his goal was to make payments simple and fast. Develop made that happen, securely.
Let's jump right in.
Okay, Joel, Rich, thanks for joining us here today. As you've probably all noticed, we've got a significant sound improvement for this week's podcast, which is great. We're down in the kind of central Soho in a basement in a very professional recording studio. We've obviously had a lot of feedback from the podcasts over the past few weeks. And one of the primary things that we're taking into consideration is that sound quality. So we're really aiming to improve that going forward. Now, I've got Richard and Joel here today to speak about how fintechs are really kind of revolutionizing the payment space. Joel is from Yoyster, and he's going to be talking to us about what Yoyster is as a concept and how that really helps improve some of the frictions that we see with payments. So, Joel, can we just start by getting a quick introduction to what Yoyster is and the problem and the challenge that you saw before and why we've actually gone about building Yoyster?
Sure. Yoyster is a planning and payment app for groups, and it was sort of born out of a frustration of the organisation it takes and the planning it takes to make a successful group experience or event. Currently, the process is very fragmented, partly because of the way it's been done. So, it's almost a bit like if you go right back and say it was probably done with, letters, and then it got faxes, and then we got telephones, and then mobiles and emails, and then the whole thing. And we haven't actually streamlined this process. So the idea was to take the pain out of organising and bring it all into one place. It was also about the accountability and transparency of these transactions. So the accountability of each member of the group and the transparency in the payment terms. Because a lot of times when you go away, you get in a situation where the group organizer is out of pocket. So we wanted to build something that was aimed at group organizers that helped a group achieve a better result.
Would you mind just explaining us from a end user perspective what Yoyster does, what value it has to you, and also what value it has to the person who would be organising this group event or holiday?
As I said before, Yoyster is aimed at group organisers, those people that take it upon themselves to organise events, experiences for others. Now, all of us can be an organiser, but we don't necessarily want to be. We've made this system as easy and as simple as possible. And the way it works is very simple. The organiser will create a group. They will invite their friends or colleagues to join that group, just as you would with, for example, like WhatsApp. Once that group's created, they have an ability to chat, plan, post links, start to develop their event, but they all get a say in it. So there's lots of nice social communication. They can look at different hotels, they could look at different flights. Now the group organizer then, I think a lot of the time with things like WhatsApp, you get a load of rambling messages and you're not really sure where a lot of it's banter, where the information is. So what we've done is the group organizer, once they've decided what they're doing, has the ability to build an itinerary of estimated cost per person. So in that way, people are now starting to develop their event, look at what they're doing, look at how much it's going to cost them. Once they've decided that that is the proposed plan and the plan's locked in place, those that wish to go accept and they pay their share of the cost. And everyone can see who's paid, who's going. They have a full itinerary of what's going on, and it's that simple.
Great. So, I think that's definitely a pain point as well from my experience of having organised these things is, having these offline conversations or online conversations, whether that be via WhatsApp. And then you've got a spreadsheet going in the background that you've got to share with everybody via email. And then you've got 3 or 4 different channels of communication. Some of people are on half of it, some aren't. And it becomes very, very disjointed. And at the same time, you're having to maintain this spreadsheet.
Someone was testing it who loves organising groups. And they said, I really like it. I think it's great, but I'm not sure how much I'd use it. And to me, that was a compliment because this person was such an organizer that they don't mind doing all the other stuff. But it's for everyone else, who does mind. This is a way of keeping it in one simple place. There's no, fragmented communication. You've got everything there on your phone, in your hand. So, and also there's no excuse to miss anything. So when people turn up late or people don't pay their money, we can send messages from Yoyster to say, hey, you owe money, this is what you're doing, you should know by now, get with the program, or kind of get out of the group, really.
Yeah.
Leave the group.
Right. And that bit is particularly poignant because oftentimes you'll get to the stage where you've organised all of the flights, you've paid for the hotel, and it comes down to one person having to, foot the bill for all of these things and then go chasing the money afterwards. And I think what Yoyster does extremely well is it means that the person who was organising it doesn't have to provide cash flow for the entire trip.
Exactly, because I think if you are the organiser, 9 times out of 10, you'll always end up out of pocket, which is not a good thing.
Right, exactly. And even, kind of when we're looking at phase 2 or phase 3 of the project, then we've been discussing things around how can we extend that capability to during the trip, can we turn it into a live kitty whilst we're out?
Exactly, yeah. And also extend the marketplace so we can do deals with, group travel companies that we can get better deals for our groups because we're approaching them as one group with maybe 10 or 20 members in it.
Great. And what kind of groups of people are we talking about here? Is it specifically holidays or people organising a night out? Is there anybody that this really targets, or do you see it as a great solution to anybody organising anything in a group that has some kind of payment mechanism in it?
Anyone can be a group organizer, but it does come down to the fact that in most groups, there's a lot of people that don't want to get involved. They just want to say, yeah, I'm in, I'll go, whatever.
Yeah, and I think we can probably all empathise with that. It can be a really painful process for whoever's organising it.
And it can also be a very lengthy process. And a lot of times, going back through our research initially, the deals that you were looking at have either gone, are sort of, they've gone up in price. So getting this done quickly, because it takes quite a long time to get all this information together, to get people to agree, to get people to, transfer money, it takes too long. So we wanted to build something that was quick and easy to use.
Right. And actually, with all of that kind of painfulness of organisation can take a lot of the fun away from the organiser itself. So I think that there's a very, very clear benefit to the person organising it to have a solution like Yoyster, right?
Again, one of the things we wanted to do was make it more social as well. With Yoyster, you can create an itinerary of exactly what you're doing. You can discuss and plan the event before you go ahead. So people feel like they're contributing to the event. With that in mind, there are apps out there that split the bill, but we wanted to create something that was social that people could get involved with, and then at the end of it, all have a happy result because each member has paid their share of the cost. They can see that they've paid their share of the cost, and the tagline is, plan together, pay together, go together, and that's what we believe in.
Right. So actually, it's much more than just splitting a bill at the end of the day. It's more about the planning piece of going away or organising a group event. And then equally at the end, kind of giving that ability to really very simply split the payment and, most importantly, collect that payment in a secure and very frictionless manner. So I think some of the challenges that we see with these apps is that UX is very, very important. And one of the challenges that we see around payments is that security is extremely important as well. And these two often have a trade-off. So when you introduce more levels of security, the UX becomes more cumbersome from a user perspective. So, Rich, can you just talk to us a little bit about what we used and what we put in place to ensure that we had high levels of security, but without any trade-offs from a user experience point of view?
So there's two sides to that. There's within the app, there's logging into the app in the first place. So we implemented Authy 2FA, two-factor authentication from Twilio, which gave a kind of seamless login experience into the app itself.
And just for those of you out there who don't understand what or have never heard of 2FA before, can you just give us a quick overview of what 2FA is, what problem it solves, and how that enhances your security?
So 2FA is a move forward from pure username password login. It's a second factor. The username password is the thing that you know, and the second factor here is a thing that you have. In the case of the thing that we've implemented, we've done SMS authentication. So you enter your mobile number into the app. The thing you have is your mobile phone. So you receive an SMS on that number, which has a code that you enter into the app, and that authenticates you at the back end to say that you are the person you say you are to enter the app.
Okay, so just by virtue of having the mobile phone in your hand, you can very, very quickly have that SMS sent with the code, pops up on the screen. All you have to do is type it in. So actually, dramatic improvement of security in comparison to the classic username or email and password combination. Yet it's really not detracting from the user experience at all.
No, if anything, it's adding to it because it's different. And B, everyone, that whole thing about, it's another app with another username and another password. And this is a great way of just, you get your verification code, it's sent to you by SMS, you punch it in and you're away.
That's a very valid point. Yeah, you don't need to have a password manager, or you don't need to have another username and another password to remember. All you have to have is your mobile phone. And for the large majority of people using this app, they'll have that in their hand. So the process is actually very, very seamless, very quick, and above all, much more secure. Yeah. So you mentioned that there's two parts to the increased security. The first one is authentication and verification. What's the second part?
So the second part is in the payments themselves. It's a big part of the app is the payments. We wouldn't be doing this without that. So how do we keep payments secure? How do we make sure people's credit card and bank account details are secure? So by implementing a third party, in this case Stripe, we're moving that need for compliance away from our own infrastructure. We store the bank account and credit card details up in Stripe. They don't pass through our system. They don't get stored on our system. They use a tokenization method. So on the front end, the user enters their credit card details, their bank account details. That gets tokenized, so it gets stored in Stripe, and then the token gets passed through to the back-end part of the app, which then makes another call to Stripe to marry those two things together, the credit card, bank account, with the token that they've entered in. So at no point are there secure financial details passing through our system. So it moves that part away from us. And Stripe themselves have strong compliance. They have that built in to what they do. It's part and parcel of what they do because they're a financial institution themselves. So we're taking that away from our necessity.
And it's worth noting, from a user's point of view, a lot of these groups that are set up, even something for as simple as a stag do, you don't necessarily know everybody on that group. With Stripe, what that allows us to do is the sort of safety of you're not just emailing bank account details backwards and forwards with people who have them for, forever. And it's a very secure way for us, because what we're actually saying is, if you don't know people, transfer your money into a safe, secure account, and then that person who's organised that event will then transfer it into their account. What we can show then on the app is we can show who's paid and who hasn't paid. So we know when that money has gone into Stripe, and it actually changes the status on the app to tell you whether they've paid. And we also know when the group organiser has withdrawn the whole of the group fund and paid for the event. So there can be no sort of disparity about who's, where the money is. Oh, yes, I've paid. No, you haven't paid. And those awkward conversations that we've all had, it's now in front of you, and even to the point where you can turn around to somebody and say, look, you're still to pay, you haven't paid. And that for us was a big plus.
Yeah. So actually, it's really multifaceted here. The first thing that you were talking about, Rich, was the avoidance of PCI compliance to some extent. So PCI compliance is very burdensome, and it doesn't add any value to the end consumer. So we try our best to find ways to be able to circumvent that challenge. And in this case, we're using a third-party payment provider, Stripe, who will do all of the account tokenization and card tokenization and just allow us to process payments with high levels of security and low levels of regulatory compliance. The second part is actually the audit log for the people who are using this application, Yoyster, simply because in many cases, people in the group may not know each other, and to have full visibility about where the money is moving to and from and when just really helps to reassure people that, okay, fine, I'm happy to send this money over to this person who's organizing this group in good faith, and know that, there is recourse should ever that situation arise. So Rich, you're the lead developer on this project. Can you just talk us through some of the challenges around particularly the security piece, and what did you use to overcome them? So you've mentioned PCI compliance being one. Is there anything else that was specifically challenging, and what did you put in place to make that more easy?
So there's aspects within Stripe with regard to the ability for someone to withdraw the funds. There's checks that Stripe do themselves for anti-fraud to ensure that the person is who they say they are. We need to get the user to input certain information about themselves to make it clear that who they are, so that Stripe can just check and ensure that money isn't being passed around in a way that is fraudulent. That's a thing that we need to check.
Right. And I think we have a great deal of experience working on all manner of different products, and this is one that feels very, very real to everybody who's been involved, simply because we've all been able to very easily empathize with the end consumer. Organizing these group events is tough, and it can take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and there really isn't anything in the marketplace that helps facilitate that right now.
No, and it's amazing how when people do see it, you're saying, about the end user, it's amazing how people see it immediately for something they do. I was speaking to someone the other day who plays five-a-side football with a group of dads from school. And he said, I always organise this. I've been organising it for 2 years only because I was the one that said in the pub, anyone fancy playing five-a-side? Now, he said, I was in charge with that responsibility. He said, with this, I can spread the responsibility across. I can get the money in, because he said it costs me so much money a year to keep this going, only because I was the one that said, I'll do it. Now, he said, this is a great app for, something as small as that, which is, what costs each member £5 a month or something, or £5 a week, So it can be used for anything. Which is a really great example, actually. If you're playing five-a-side football once a week and you've got 5 or 6 guys, each paying £5, very, very quickly, if one of them doesn't pay, or 2 of them don't pay on a regular basis, you're paying for them to play football. Exactly, yeah. So I think that's a very good use case. The one that comes to mind straight away is going on holiday or slightly bigger trips. But actually, when it comes down to it, it could be going to the cinema or, going out for coffee with friends. Anything where there's a group level environment and you're talking about collecting payment in some shape or form, Yoyster's really going to help. Absolutely, yeah. And to say, not just for friends. Friends that go on holiday, if there's maybe 2 or 3 of you, you might not have a need for it because you're so close that you're quite happy to hand over cash. You probably have that person's account anyway. But if you're in a larger group, sport teams, cycling clubs or rugby clubs, things like that, it's a great way of getting everything in, getting organised and getting out there quickly. Rich, we talked earlier about using Stripe, and actually what Yoyster is really a marketplace model. So Yoyster's the platform, and it's connecting together a seller and a customer, really, when you break it down. This model is really quite complex, but Stripe has some very interesting functionality that allows you to get there much more quickly. Can you just talk us through how that functionality works and the problem that it's solving?
So Stripe specifically has a marketplace facility. It's the means by which, in a classic sense, a buyer, online seller would be put in touch with a buyer. The buyer sends money over, and that money can go to the seller without the seller actually specifically logging into account themselves. The marketplace can handle that transaction without any necessary Stripe knowledge on the seller's point of view. So we're using that facility within Yoyster so that a group owner, in this case, can be seen as the seller. We can set them up with a Stripe account, which is the means by which they can get paid. They don't need to have any knowledge of Stripe. They don't have to log on to Stripe, create an account themselves. We manage that account and we manage the flow of money towards it. The seller themselves can choose when to withdraw the money. There is that kind of input, but the actual day-to-day management in the account doesn't hit the group owner themselves, which is a really handy facility for them. They don't, just that lack of input from their part makes it a pretty seamless flow for them.
So actually what's happening in the app is that when the seller or the group owner creates a group, in the background, Stripe's creating an account for them. Yes. And this is a holding account that then any monies that are paid through the app are paid into. Yeah. And coming back to Joel's point earlier about security and transparency, this is a holding account in the fact that it's not going directly into somebody's bank account. When one of the group members makes a payment, it goes into this holding account that the group owner can then withdraw money from. So we have good visibility of the transfer of money into and out of that account. And most importantly, from the group organizer perspective, is that they haven't had to do any work to set this up. It's all automatically done. And that's the power of Stripe's connected accounts. So in the background, we have this holding account that belongs to the group owner. And at any stage, they can withdraw money from there by inputting their bank details.
Yes. At the point of withdrawal, we just ask them to put in a bank account that is in their name. Some, as mentioned before, some identifying details about themselves, and then they can withdraw the money.
And I think also as well, from a from a group perspective, this is about the only time really where the group member feels like an individual, and this is a commitment from them. This is about the only real commitment that they have to do. Once they put their money in, they're committed. And we wanted that to happen because, we don't want it to be a case of, oh, well, I might be going, I might pay, I might not. If you're going, you've got to pay. So let's, get it out of the way quickly. But at least it's done privately.
Right. And again, really, really important, that piece around booking anything for a group is have people really confirmed unless they've paid the money. And Yoyster just gives us that fantastic visibility to say, okay, everybody here is paid. They're all good to go. The group owner, the group manager has collected all of the money into their connected account and can withdraw at ease whenever they want to, go and pay for the flights or whatever they might be booking. So, Joel, we've obviously been working with you for the duration of this project. When we started out, what idea did you have? What understanding did you have about the technology required for us to really make this a reality when we sat down for the very first time to discuss?
I had an idea, and my background is not tech. I came to you with my vision of what I saw and my frustration, and sitting with you, which was great, was the first time of somebody just saying, get rid of it, take it right down. And thank goodness we did, because I think when you're thinking about building apps, your vision can be so huge that you can immediately get lost. I've been on a massive learning curve for the last year, discovering the technology, and the fact that we are using Stripe, for example, is great, because for us it cut down the time, a lot. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do that ourselves. It was a great way of creating a shortcut. It was a great way of us not having to jump through hoops to become a financial institution or whatever. So it was a great fix, if anything else. The technology that we've used has actually realised that vision. The UX that we've put in place, I think we streamlined to such a point that we wanted to keep it incredibly simple. And I think we've done that. Over the last year, what we've put together is a great product. The technology works really well. And obviously we're all very excited about phase 2 because there's a lot more functionality that we want to add. The vision doesn't just stop here. So, it's going to be an exciting time.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think as we've gone through the process, we've really unearthed some more very, very key use cases for this product and extensions to it. And again, having the experience and looking for quicker ways to solve the base problems really allows us to focus on those added value bits. So, as you said, we don't really want to be spending our time building a financial institution or all of the infrastructure that you need to make this happen. It's about choosing the right tools, finding what's already out there, using them and leveraging them, and then focusing as much time as we can on what we call above the value line. So really identifying where that value line is and getting there as quickly as possible with as least infrastructure and overhead as possible. And then really drilling down into, okay, what is the added value of this product to the end consumer? And in this case, I think it's extremely clear that the aim is to reduce the friction of doing group bookings, in particular, the management of group payments. So, Joel, we've just launched version 1.0 of Yoyster. It's in the iOS App Store now. Can we just hear a little bit more about what's to come with Yoyster? What's the next steps? What are those exciting features that we're discussing and looking to build right now?
With phase 1, we've created a planning and payment app for groups, and we've done exactly that. So what we want to do is we want to bring on lots more functionality. We want to be able to take photos and share them within the group. We also want to do things like have location finder on there. So if, for example, you are away with some friends, you can tell where each individual is. You can always turn it off, of course. We want to put maps on there and things like that. We want to start linking it to different markets so we can start offering deals within the app so you can get the best price for your group event or experience. We want to start building multiple groups and sort of cross-pollinating those groups so you can link groups together and create much more of a sort of community of groups. One of the interesting things we really want to do with the payment side of things, there's always the problem of a kitty. And currently, the way it's done is you stick your £50 in or whatever it is, or 30, 50 quid, and it goes into somebody's pocket. And you're never quite sure whether it comes out of that pocket again. With the app, you can put in your £50 kitty, and we will then send you a prepaid credit card with hopefully branded with maybe with your group photo on it. So you can then take that and pay for things. And once that gets low, you'll get an alert from Yoyster telling you that the kitty is low, and you can then put some more money on it through the app.
And that's a really interesting one. I think we've all been there as well. Have a kitty amongst a group of people, specifically if you're abroad. You come back and you've got €15.50 and you don't really know what to do with it. So it either goes in the washing machine with your jeans, or, whoever's been organising the group ends up spending it on a few beers next time he's out in Spain. I think that's a really great value add. And equally, whilst you're abroad, it covers a lot of the security challenges as well. If you've got a larger group and you're putting €50 into a kitty, then very, very quickly somebody's carrying around a lot of money. I think that's something that we're really looking forward to being involved in helping you deliver as well.
Absolutely. No, looking forward to it. It's going to be, it's a very exciting time ahead.
Great. Very good. So, as we said, Yoyster is available in the iOS App Store. Please do go and download it and give us some feedback once you've actually been out there and using it in the real world environment. We'll very much like to hear your feedback. Richard, Joel, thanks for joining us today. It's been great fun talking about Yoyster again. I think we've all been very heavily involved in the process, not just from kind of the very early ideation stage, but actually going through the build. And we're all very excited that it is now available in the iOS App Store. So please do go and download it, and we'll very much appreciate your feedback, and we'll take that into consideration when we're looking at which features to build next.
And that concludes the Yoyster special episode of Charge.
Thank you to Another Tongue Studios and Dan for helping us improve our sound quality.
We heard your feedback and listened. If you want to help us change Charge for the better, keep those comments coming.
You can tweet us at develop_team, or you could email us at charge@develop.co.uk.
For more Charge with beautiful crisp sound, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud.
Catch you again in a fortnight.